The journey was long, but I only knew one way to make it to the well. I was forced to take the alternate route. I was forced to detour and bear the heat to bypass the scorn I received from others. The sweltering heat took a toll on me. I was at a fork in the road with no easy path, but my past led me to a crossroad. And there he stood. I tried to dodge him, but his eyes focused on my soul. His look charged toward me as he stood there, cavalier, attempting to lure me into his odyssey, transforming my heart into a prism of his enjoyment. I hate to love this feeling, and I can't explain what this man would want from me.
She needed to know there was a better way, and that the road to redemption would soon be paved with my precious blood. She was cruising down the road to destruction, in need of a divine intersection. So I entered sections of Samaria that most Jews would avoid to fill a void that had swallowed her self-esteem. Because when nothing else could help, love lifted me from my throne in heaven and brought me to this particular place to place the needs of others above my personal comfort, which is why, as I stood by Jacob's well exhausted, waiting for my disciples to return with meat, I had to meet her need.
I responded to the fire in his eyes with ice. But how is it that this man has the ability to defy natural law? The colder I am, the stronger his fire burns. The more I reject, the more he entreats. He was my Titanic and I his iceberg, but the crash only made me sink into an ocean of his mercy. My senseless cold kindled a fire that began to melt what was once an impermeable frozen shell that encapsulated my wounded heart. It was clear that this journey to the well had become a walk to remember, accustomed to being the pretty woman who was always seduced by indecent proposals. For years, I had been sleeping with the enemy. But this man saw the fault in my stars. He saw beyond my pride and was empty of prejudice. Though I had 5 husbands, I began to feel like his runaway bride.
I knew that she'd be surprised. Suspicion crept in her mind through the windows of her soul, each glance asking me if I was lost. Her body language temporarily threw me off. She was fluent in cold shoulder, but I was on a mission because we were standing beside this well, and the only 2 options were to take a drink or go fishing, and I decided to fish, using love as a reel. So I asked her for a drink, and that's when things got real.
Why? Why would he want a drink from my hand? An unclean woman, drained of her value, a disappointment, a woman of ill repute, a failure, tarnished and tainted by sin, broken beyond repair, an outcast. I have been explored by many, my body treated like a playground, satisfying the evil lust of men. I exchanged my purity for profit, convinced that I was not capable of being loved without condition because my life had been a business contract, quantifying my value by the number of times I had sold myself to the perversion that kept me a prisoner.
Her words were a tsunami that instantly submerged my humble request. But I chose not to get upset, because when a blind person steps on your foot, you should immediately overlook the offense and then help them get where they need to go. It was obvious she had no idea who she was talking to. That's because sin can rob you of your eyesight, and that's when I sight the truth in love. So I challenged her to get to know who it was she was conversing with, and in return, I would bless her with the precious gift of living water.
This man held a key in his hand and managed to go where no man has gone before. He arrived at the place I had locked myself in for protection. I was being touched without contact, liberated from the lie that held me captive, delivered from deception and loved with a grace I had never known. For the first time in my life, I knew love. Surrender no longer felt like loss. I became one with him and our bodies never met. Suddenly, I feel a pain. It was a pain that healed. His hand gripped the shame I had nurtured and exchanged it with his worth. His offer for living water translated to the loudest "I love you" I had ever heard.
My power can split the Red Sea, but I chose to tread the shallow waters of misogyny, and now the tide is beginning to turn because she wants to learn more about this living water. I told her, you cannot draw this from out of a well. See, this is that aquafina. It propels you to live a pure life. When your soul thirsts for me, like a deer parked by the brook, you can tap into this water. From Fiji to Poland, springs of adoration flow from the hearts of my people. Because although I am rich, I became poor just to pour my love upon you. Will you receive it?
He addresses my sin. Words that felt like daggers from others quench my soul, hydrating every dry and desolate place, drowning me in him. And I can finally say it is well with my soul.
The door to her heart had finally opened. But before I stepped in, I needed to address the sin in her life. You see, she had been the wife of 5 different men, and the man she was living with now was not her husband. But I didn't come to pass judgment. As a matter of fact, her mistakes allowed me to demonstrate my mercy and grace. So when she inquired about the true place of worship, I responded that God is spirit. And truth is a faithful bridge carrying you to the land of obedience where the Father lives. He's been patiently waiting.
I told him I can't wait for the Messiah to come because he will tell us what we need to know. And to my surprise, he replied, I am he.